posting losses for the fourth straight day as speculative selling and seasonal harvest pressure weighs on values. Canola down $7 to $10. The November contract down $7.90 at $775 per ton. Statistics Canada released ending stocks data today, pegging canola supplies in the country as of July 31st at 1.5 million tons. That was at the higher end of trade expectations, with an upward revision to the year-ago ending stocks also reported. Losses in outside markets, including Chicago soy oil, European rapeseed, and Malaysian palm oil, added to the softer tone in canola. But solid export demand did provide some underlying support. Crop year-to-date Canadian canola exports through August of 442,000 tons are running well ahead of the year-ago level, according to the latest Canadian Grain Commission data. In the U.S., activity is mixed, with positioning ahead of next week's monthly USDA supply-demand report behind some of the activity. Soybeans up a penny in the November contract at $13.61 per bushel. Weekly U.S. soybean export sales were solid, with 155,000 tons of old crop business and 1.7 million of new crop. Average trade estimates place U.S. soybean yields at around 50.2 bushels per acre. That would be down slightly from the August estimate, but still up from the 49.5 bushels per acre seen last year. Corn, it's holding near unchanged, down only a half cent in December at $4.85 3/4. Weekly U.S. corn export sales included small net cancellations of old crop business, with just under 1 million tons of new crop sales. Average trade guesses ahead of next week's report place U.S. corn yields at around 173.5 bushels per acre. That'd be down slightly from the previous estimate, but still up on the year. Ongoing concerns over hot and dry Midwestern conditions did remain somewhat supportive. Wheat futures are mostly lower. Minneapolis spring wheat down 2 cents in the December contract at $7.72 per bushel. Kansas City down 4 cents in December at $7.33 per bushel, and Chicago soft wheat down 3 cents in December at $5.96 per bushel. Canadian wheat ending stocks of around 3.6 million tons were in line with the year-ago level, but off the 5-year average of over 5 million and below average trade estimates. Weekly U.S. wheat export sales of 370,000 tons were in line with expectations. That's a look at the ICE futures and U.S. markets for Friday, September 8th. In Winnipeg, for MarketsFarm.com, I'm Phil Franz-Workington.
Hard work has never come so easy. That's what you'll say when you take on a job with a New Holland all-purpose tractor from Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John. Whether a Workmaster Utility, PowerStar, T5, or T6 tractor, you'll maximize your productivity with exceptional power, convenience, and comfort. Buy now and take advantage of 0% financing for 60 months or cash back on these 45 to 126 PTO horsepower models. Stop in today at Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John and see how easy hard work can be. Offer ends September 13th.
The opinions expressed during this show do not represent those of this station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at energeticcity.ca. Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Moose Talks with your host, Doug Craig, on Moose FM.
Good morning and welcome to the show. Later on today, we're going to be catching up with Fort St. John Huskies Hockey Club head coach Todd Alexander. The team held their ID camp a couple of weeks back, and they're hitting the road for a trio of exhibition games this weekend before the full season starts the following weekend. But first, the BC Legislature will be opening for business for MLAs to debate the government's business in early October. To talk a bit about the upcoming session and what he expects from it, we're joined now by Peace River North MLA Dan Davies. Good morning, Dan. Welcome back to Moose Talks.
Yeah, thanks. Good morning, Doug.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got
Am I muted?
There it is. There it is. I think you're good now.
And good morning, Doug.
There it is.
Thanks for having me and not muting me.
Well, welcome back to the show. Before we get to the government and all that, I just wanted to quickly talk about the Northeast Immigrant Services Society, because I had a representative on. I'm blanking on her name right now. I apologize.
Ludmila?
I may no, there was somebody else who
Okay.
was involved. Anyway, they were on a couple of weeks ago to kind of talk about what they're up to and whatnot. And apparently, you were kind of heavily involved in making it happen and kind of creating it, I guess.
Yeah, well, this goes back to almost a year ago now, or 9 or 10 months ago, when we first started hearing about the challenges of a number of Ukraine families displaced from the conflict in the Ukraine that were arriving in Fort St. John. And you can imagine if you were a family of 11, this is just one example, arriving at the Fort St. John airport at 10 o'clock at night, not speaking English, and thinking, where am I?
What do I do?
What do I do? And there was no supports. There was nothing was arranged for this family that had arrived. And it wasn't until, someone saw, the emotion, the fright, the scary look in their faces that, finally, are you okay? Do you need help? And, that progressed to, someone getting a phone call in the community, getting arrangements, a hotel, Home to Suites donating, a room. And this played out over and over again by multiple families arriving. And we have more than 50 families that have arrived since the conflict began, which, you're looking at 200 people that are up here in the region. So we looked at the school district who actually initially brought this forward and said, there's a problem. Like there's, I wish it was only a little gap, but I mean, it's a mountain crevice that, it is lacking in services. So we had a meeting at my office, brought together multiple organizations in the community to talk about, hey, what, because there were some doing little things, but nobody was coordinated. So the discussion was to bring together and create an organization led by the displaced Ukrainians. Ludmila is the president, and to help and coordinate services here in Fort St. John, have a point of contact. One of the first things we did was put a sign up at the airport, and the airport graciously allowed us to hang a sign there that is in Ukraine, so folks at least know, okay, hey, there's something here, services, contact, and so on and so forth. So now we're just looking at funding the organization. We actually we're hoping to have a grant here shortly. We need about $30,000 more dollars. So any listeners out there that know of any corporations that might be willing to donate, this is an economic boost for our economy. And that's how we look at it too. I mean, these aren't just random people. I mean, there's people in healthcare backgrounds. There's Class 1 truck drivers. There's welders. There's pipe fitters, electricians. So these are people that we are currently looking for up in this area. And we've already heard a number of them have moved to Edmonton and other areas because it's just easier to integrate into the communities and find work. But we need to have them stay here, but we need the services and support, especially the language training, which we're trying to find right now to help them. So we're hoping that this society will take off. We'll get the funding we need, and hopefully help these folks out.
Well, you bring something up interesting that I didn't think to ask when the representative was here. People come, they as you say, pipe fitters, they're nurses, they're whatnot. Has there been challenges in, first of all, as you say, language? There's a language barrier, but getting certified so that they can do the job here. Like you have to be able to prove you can do the job. You have to have your ticket if you're a pipe fitter and whatnot. Has that been part of a challenge that you're trying to look into? How can we make this easier, maybe faster, to get these people here earning income so that they can be self-sustaining when they do come to Fort St. John?
Yeah, absolutely. And probably that's one of the biggest challenges we're facing. And that's one of the things we're hoping this organization will be able to assist with. For instance, there's a number of Class 1 truck drivers that are here and wanting to drive. However, ICBC wants them, regardless of their experience, they want them to do the whole training program, which costs upwards of $15,000 to $17,000 now under all the new regulations and such. Other jurisdictions, though, in Canada have waived that. If you can prove that you have, the experience, the time, and the documentation, you can waive that. So we're working right now trying to, get the provincial government here in BC to recognize that other provinces are doing it. It's not that, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's, let's do this and get them working. Other things is a lot of these organizations, the certification, whether it's a driver's license or a ticket, well, we need recent documentation from the Ukraine. Well, they're in a war-torn country. And it's not as easy as just, picking up the phone and calling, the DMV and saying, I need an update. The DMV might not be standing in their community. So there's huge challenges, and we need to be looking at ways to work around, some of these challenges that they're facing. And that's, again, what we're hoping that this society will do.
Very cool. Well, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that society as we go. Let's talk a bit about the session to come. It's been a busy summer for the government. Wildfires top of mind because of droughts and dry conditions, severe drought in the Northeast BC. Farmers don't have enough hay and feed for their animals to go through the dinner. Like it's all connected, and it's been busy and whatnot. Do you expect this to be top of mind for the government? And if not, is this top of mind for the opposition to say, we have to start working on some of these things and helping out the people who have been devastated by these situations arriving here, but also really province-wide?
Yeah. It has been an incredibly challenging summer for a number of people across the province and of course up here in the Peace region. Farmers definitely, specifically cattle, really face significant challenges. This is going to be, we're not sure what the government's going to be. We don't see that until it's usually read off on the floor of the legislature. But we will be bringing forward issues that have arisen this summer, certainly around supporting agriculture. Government talks the talk around food security all the time, but we're not seeing the support to support our farmers. And without our farmers, we don't eat. We don't eat in this region, the province, or across the country. And we need to be making sure that farmers are supported, and it's not just supporting farmers today, because what's happening today is going to have long-term effects. Are the kids going to want to be able to? Are they going to be able to continue on with farming or ranching? And that's what worries me. If we don't have that future of farmers coming into it, well, we're in big trouble. And when you're looking at because of the hay shortage, definitely, families selling off a big chunk or the majority of their herds, that puts them back decades and puts at jeopardy the whole that whole industry. So we need to be looking at the government needs to be looking at supporting farmers and coming up with some really some very tangible solutions that's going to keep farmers farming not just today but into the future.
Has there been discussion? I don't know how active the opposition's been in the summer, but what that suggestion is going to look like when your leader, Kevin Falcon, stands up and says, this is what we need to be doing. Is that something you've announced yet and said, this is what we want the government to do? This is what we expect them to do?
I think what we need to be doing is talking to farmers, talking to the folks that are impacted. What does that look like? If they're going to be selling their herds off at prices this year, how do we support them next year to buy back or to get back into this as running this massive deficit? How do we look at working to improve agri-stability, the insurance programs out there, so that there is some assurances. Those are things that we need to be looking at, and we should be looking at anyways. We've heard lots of issues around the insurance piece. Whether it's cattle or grain. Lots of challenges that, we just need to look at doing things better and, bringing together the people that are experiencing it, bringing, the professionals, the farmers, and talking about how can we improve agriculture in British Columbia. That's what we need to be doing, and that's what we're going to be looking at doing.
All right. Well, I want to make sure we talk a bit about healthcare because, of course, it's always top of mind everywhere in the province. Again, I know you've said and reminded me that the government still hasn't lifted the mandate that requires vaccinations for healthcare workers in this province when everyone else has at this point. I mean, I guess you'll keep hammering away on the government to do that because that's a pool of workers that could go to work tomorrow, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And, now British Columbia is the last jurisdiction. I can certainly say on the continent. I'm not sure of the rest of the world, but I'm pretty sure we're an outlier that still has a vaccination policy in place for healthcare workers. And we've actually started calling on the government last summer to lift the mandates right after, the federal government did and most provinces did, but BC is still that outlier. And Adrian Dix is still, even just as recently as early this week, saying, no, we have no intentions on doing this because, Dr. Henry said, well, I don't know what makes us so special and have different science than the rest of the world. It makes no sense. When we have an unbelievable shortage of healthcare professionals, nurses especially. There's 2,000 across the province, 4,000 healthcare workers sitting on the sidelines, hoping to go back to work, yet they're not able to. And if we want to look at a way to improve things right now, well, we best be looking at that as a really quick fix. It's not going to solve everything because we're massively short, healthcare professionals. But we need to be looking at ways that we can build healthcare, and vaccines is an easy one. We've called on the government to repeal Bill 36 or to review Bill 36. We've called a few times now to bring it back in the legislature. There's huge issues with that bill that was passed last fall that we need to be looking at fixing. And right now the government, that whole definition of insanity, right? It's just we're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, we need to flip it on its head and do things differently to get better results. And the government isn't doing that right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, got about a minute left, Dan, so I'll cap it on one.
I've got 10 minutes of stuff
I know.
to say, though.
I wanted to talk a bit about Parker Johnson. We put a story up on
kid.
and on Energetic City about this a couple days ago. You gave him an award for bravery. Tell us a bit about that experience and meeting Parker and hearing about kind of what happened that kind of led to him.
Well, what a good kid. Even just talking to him restores faith in society. Let's put it that way. But there was a fire out at his home, and he was the one that came downstairs. I think it was just as a window went out, and his mom was still sleeping. It was hot, so the fan was on. Didn't hear anything. Until Parker ran up and woke up the rest of the family, and just in time. The house, it didn't take long for the house to go up, and absolutely Parker saved the lives of his family. And, just hearing the story was chilling, actually. I mean, it was a pretty scary event, and definitely worth giving Parker the recognition that he deserves. So, and like you say, good kid.
Yeah. Was that like something you had heard the story and you said we got to recognize
Absolutely.
him? Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And heard it a number of times from different people. I even think Moose did a story on it as well. So, but I think it's important to have the local representative as well recognize that act of bravery and. Recognize our young people. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dan. Well, we're going to have to leave it there. I'm sure you'll be back in a couple months and we'll talk more about what's happening with the next legislature of the BC Legislature. Thanks for being here, Dan. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. That's Dan Davies, the MLA for Peace River North. We'll be right back to talk to Todd Alexander of the Huskies right after this on Moose Talks.
It's the Fort Motors Salute to Summer Season Ender RV Sale. These are the RV prices you've been holding out for. Their already low sale prices have been slashed even further on all remaining in-stock units. Get the make, model, and floor plan you've had your eye on at prices you won't see anywhere else. Why not end the season with a blowout at Fort Motors Salute to Summer Season Ender RV Sale? Buy local, save local, and get great local service. Fort Motors, your local RV dealer.
Pools, beaches, sports, trips. It's been a busy summer. So now that the kids are back to school, the Hairbin wants to help you relax and unwind. Book an appointment today for a pedicure, manicure, or hair service to melt all of that stress away. Plus, the Hairbin is extending their amazing leader sale. Enjoy 15% off all leader-sized products until the end of September. The Hairbin Salon, Barber, and Spa. Voted People's Choice Salon and Spa since 2011. Find them on Facebook or visit them at hairbin.com.
Founded over 25 years ago, Alpha Training Solutions is a full-service safety training agency offering in-class training in Fort St. John as well as on-site training across BC. Training categories include
First Aid, a Level 1 through 3 with Level 1 classes running twice a week, plus off-road vehicle training including ATV and UTV and snowmobile.
Alpha Training Solutions. See them in their new facility on 99 Avenue in the HR Block Building or register online at alpha-training.ca.
Watch this show live on Facebook or download the podcast at energeticcity.ca.
Welcome back to the show. Well, the Fort St. John Huskies had their ID camp just 2 weeks ago or something now, and they're about to head out on the road for 3 exhibition games this weekend before the season starts next week. So let's talk a bit about that coming up. We're here with head coach of the Fort St. John Huskies Hockey Club, Todd Alexander. Welcome back to Moose Talk, sir.
Awesome. Glad to be here. Good to see you again, Dub.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's first of all talk a bit about the ID camp. I think you had told Jordan Prentice, our sports reporter at energeticcity.ca, that you had a really good turnout and you saw lots of guys who were really hoping to make the cut, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a pretty good crop of young guys right now.
Yeah.
We did release a couple older players that have been on the roster before already. And then there's some other guys that are pushing for some spots there too. So it's, every year it seems to just get a little bit tougher to make this club, and that's where we want to be. I know it's unfortunate that we can't pack everybody, and, feelings get hurt when I got to release someone that's been around for a while. But, at the end of the day, we're trying our best to make competitive decisions so that we're as competitive as we can be.
Yeah. And I know, you still have a round of cuts you'll make after this weekend, I suppose. But it's looking like this team will be probably a healthy mix of vets and new players, likely, eh?
Absolutely, yeah. No, especially like we just touched with some of the young guys that are coming in. We got a pretty good crop right now, so if they're doing equal or better than someone that's been on the roster before, well, that's just the way that things go when you live in a competitive world. And that's the biggest thing that we try to teach our players. We don't find that they get enough of that when they come from society, from school. It's a little bit different on how they teach the kids, and a lot of the youth sports and stuff out there now today are also non-competitive, where everybody wins, right? So we've trained up a whole generation of kids that show up and they think that just because they showed up, they check the box and they're good to go. But really, you got to show up and be competitive now too. So, that's what we want to teach. And when our guys leave our program, we feel that they're better suited for whatever road that they get into, because they understand what it's like to be competitive, because anybody can work hard. I can come in here today and, get some of your people to work hard in here, but that's not them coming in and being competitive. There's a big difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about Curtis Lee. He's the new captain after Caden Burnett has moved on. You obviously knew Caden wasn't going to be here, this season.
Yep.
But, did you already have it in mind that maybe Curtis was going to be the guy even last year when you're looking ahead to this year? Or was this like, no, you know what, maybe he showed you something suddenly that made you change your mind about him?
Honestly, Caden did a phenomenal job for us. He carried this club through some pretty tough times. Obviously for everybody. But, Kurt's been there with him, grooming along the way. He's been wearing an A for the last couple years as well. And it was a real easy decision for us. A lot of our players flocked to him naturally. He's not a cocky individual. He's a confident individual. He gets the job done away from the ice and makes sure the guys are, behaving for the most part. And when we're on ice, he's our best practice player that we have. So, when, your top guy's at and your captain's at, then there's not really a lot of excuses for the other guys to show up and, take a night off when they see Kurt out there grinding away and doing his thing and giving what he has that day. So it's been an easy transition, one of the easier transitions from losing the captain, because it can be difficult sometimes. But we did give him heads up, about 2 months after the season, so that he can get his head wrapped around it throughout the summer on how he wanted to handle things and conduct himself and the ideas that he had. And we'll after this weekend, we'll also probably name our assistant captains too, and he's a part of that as well, because we need to know what guys he thinks that'll be able to support him too, and we try our best to pick different kind of guys so that we don't have all the same personality doing the same things too, and then different ages as well, so that we can get to the roster and touch with everybody, and everybody feels comfortable going to somebody. So really looking forward to him being our captain, and also I think he's really looking forward to the challenge as well. He's just that type of kid.
Do you think he is or is going to be a guy who speaks a lot, has kind of the big speech in the locker room, or is he more like just watch what I do, fellas, and does it?
Yeah, he's definitely like a watch what I do guy.
Yeah.
but he's not shy by any means. He's a very intelligent individual, and so when he does talk, it does carry a lot of weight. He is not a rah-rah guy. He's, like, hey, let's get our stuff together here. And then he's the first guy that goes out and, actually does what we were talking about in the dressing room and then tries to toe the rope that way. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's look ahead on these 3 exhibition games. Sexsmith tonight, then a pair of games against the Kodiaks in Tumbler Ridge, I guess, over the Saturday and Sunday. What are you and the coaches looking for in these games from the players, and even some players that maybe, whether they know it or not, are sort of on the bubble as to, I don't know which way we're going to go with you. What are you expecting from everybody to show you in these 3 games?
Well, I know everybody's going to have energy, because it's pretty easy to have energy for something that, is in a short window. And, some of these guys are not looking too far ahead. They're just trying to make a hockey club. So we should see good energy. I know it's going to be sloppy because we haven't really gone over a whole bunch of stuff as far as systematical play goes.
Yeah.
And we haven't had enough reps as a group. But, we've touched on a few things that are important that are sort of, the standard of how we play. And so we want to see our guys that are not accustomed to that at least attempt it, or go out and mess the things up that we've been trying to teach them in the last 2 weeks here. We've had 6 practices now, so with the group that's going to play this weekend. So there are some things there that we definitely know that the players can accomplish and should accomplish out on the ice, and we're kind of evaluating their IQ and whether or not they can go out and do that. And again, it's, to us, it doesn't matter if if they go out and they mess it up. I want to see it. I want, if they go mess it up, then now we could teach and learn and get better at it. But if they're out there doing their own thing and not trying to accomplish some of the stuff that we've been after in the week that they're not used to, then, that does show a little lack of IQ. And, we're looking for guys that can pick that up and make changes and move along, communicate a certain way. So it's super exciting to get back into the game this weekend. But, it's about split roster, half players that have never played here before with us, and about half of our returning lineup, and it'll kind of be that for the next 3 games. So the younger players will definitely get a few more minutes out there than some of the older guys. But overall, we're pretty happy with what we've got. But we do have some pretty key battles that we'll be watching. Specifically defense. This weekend we still got 11 defensemen. We got trimmed down to 8. We have some forwards coming back, so we really want to evaluate some of those forwards before some of these other guys get back to town from the higher up leagues that they're at. So there's always a bleed down process as we go along here, because everybody else is having camp and stuff. So it'll take a while for the final roster to take shape, but I would say the building blocks are there, and we're pretty happy with what we have at this point in time.
Yeah. And I know you're going to not like this question, but I mean, 4 league championships in a row, I believe it is. You were provincial champions the season before last. I mean, this year, I know you like to kind of focus on the immediate and just do what you do. You're still eyeing on championship, go back to provincials, maybe win again. Is that always kind of on the horizon for you guys?
I mean, definitely. Like that's where our mindset is every year. We talk about it, the boys, that's their goal. Obviously the coaching staff isn't always concerned on whether we win or not. We want to make sure that we develop and move guys on to college, and also move guys into the workforce that get out there and really do a good job and advance themselves as well. Those are the wins that I look for. But to make sure that the group stays focused and on task, then they set goals, and one of the goals is definitely to make it all the way back to provincials and see if we can get a good crack again. So but there's a lot of steps that go along the way that we need to take care of. But you want to have those goals for sure.
All right, Todd. Well, I appreciate you coming in today, and we'll have many conversations as the season goes on. Thanks for being here again, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me, buddy. I always enjoy hanging out with you, so that's good.
Awesome. That's Todd Alexander, the head coach of the Fort St. John Huskies Hockey Club. We'll be right back to wrap things up on Moose Talks right after this.
Looking for a skin cream full of antioxidants? We've got it. Hi, I'm Colin, owner of Can Have Today, where Sparkling Rain Cream is one of a kind. It moisturizes, disinfects, and is packed full of antioxidants thanks to a unique blend of chaga cream. Plus, our Sparkling Rain Cream is 100% Canadian, natural, and has a fresh, uplifting essential oil scent. Can Have Today, winner of the 2023 Canadian Business Award. Get Sparkling Rain at Homesteader Health or at canhavetoday.ca.
And now it's time for
Is That Legal?
Brought to you by Collison-Zunert Law Corporation. On this episode, My Neighbor's Tree.
While we all love trees for beauty, shade, and privacy, they can cause disputes between neighbors when their overreaching branches cause damage to your property. Many cities and towns in BC have bylaws to protect and regulate tree cutting, but generally, it's legal if you cut the branches off at the property line where they overreach into your property. To be safe, talk to your neighbor first and seek their permission. Most neighbors don't want to be a nuisance.
This is not intended to be legal advice. How the law applies depends on the facts of each case. Do not get your legal advice from the radio.
You're shopping around for an automobile. Come see Fort City Chrysler. You're trying to find the very best deal. Looking for a fine pre-owned vehicle? Fort City Chrysler has cars, trucks, minivans, and SUVs, four-wheel drive pickups, and diesels too. Many with remaining factory warranty. And they're all quality inspected and ready to go. At Fort City Chrysler, you're buying from your hometown dealer. No pressure, no hassles, just honesty and integrity. Only at Fort City Chrysler. Only in Fort St. John.
It could be old.
Yeah, I'm proud to be a coal miner's daughter.
It could be new.
You got a fast car. We go cruising, entertain ourselves. Still ain't got a job.
Or maybe somewhere in between.
I don't care. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Either way, we'll play what you want to hear on the All Request Ride Home. Brought to you by the Bone and Biscuit, your neighborhood pet store. Every weekday afternoon at 5, we'll play a request, while also giving you a chance to win a $50 prize at Fort St. John's newest pet supply store, Bones and Biscuits. Make a request by phone, text, or even through the 100.1 Moose FM app. And you'll be entered to win a weekly prize from Fort St. John's newest pet supply store. It's the All Request Ride Home. Brought to you by the Bone and Biscuit, your neighborhood pet supply store. Only on 100.1 Moose FM.
Moose Country weather.
Today, we're going to see a beautiful sunny day with a high of 19 degrees. Later tonight, 3 degrees, clear skies. Tomorrow, for the 10th annual Remax Block Party, we're going to see 19 degrees and sunny. And on Sunday, a high of 24.
Our community first. This is Moose Talks with Dub Craig on Moose FM.
Our thanks to our guests Dan Davies and Todd Alexander for joining us. Now, I don't know if I could say this for sure, but Todd did just tell me they're selling a lot of season tickets for the Huskies this season. So if you're thinking about getting some, I would get in contact with them very quickly. Now, if you also want to make sure to stay up to date every morning with local news delivered straight to your inbox, you should sign up for the energeticcity.ca newsletter right now over at energeticcity.ca/newsletters. You can keep up to date on municipal government politics as well with the local Peace Politics newsletter. And we have an events newsletter as well that we started with summer and is going to continue out throughout the fall, as there's always something cool going on in the Energetic City. So you can sign up for any or all of those newsletters now at energeticcity.ca/newsletters. That's our show. Jordan Prentice and Trey Lopashinsky are the producers of Moose Talks. I'm Dub Craig. Be well.
Join us next Friday at 10 a.m. for another episode of Moose Talks, a weekly talk show about Fort St. John and the North Peace.